My name is Chloe Radcliffe, and at 28, I stood on a podium, accepting an award that signified everything I had fought for. I never expected a routine industry gala, celebrating innovation and leadership, would become the ultimate stage for my long-awaited revenge. Standing beside my sister, Lana, who was practically radiating discomfort, should have been a moment of unadulterated joy. A public acknowledgement of years of relentless effort and sacrifice. But years of unfair treatment, quiet dismissals, and open disdain had built up to this moment, a carefully orchestrated crescendo. I still hear their cold words echoing in the chambers of my memory, a constant reminder of the injustice that fueled my every move. She deserved it, but you didn't. The memory of that night when I was unceremoniously ousted from the company my father built, a company I had poured my heart and soul into, flashes before my eyes. The casual dismissal, the unwavering belief that my contributions were negligible, that I was interchangeable, it all coalesced into a burning resolve. Before I reveal what made their faces turn ghostly pale, what shattered their smug composure and forced them to confront the undeniable truth of my capabilities, I want to ask you, if you've ever had to fight twice as hard, to push against a current of doubt and dismissiveness, to prove your worth when everyone around you seemed determined to undervalue you, then hit that like button and tell me your story in the comments below. Let's create a community of survivors, of those who turned adversity into their greatest strength. I grew up in a seemingly normal upper-middle-class family in suburban Connecticut. Our sprawling colonial house, nestled amongst mature oak trees, looked idyllic from the outside, complete with polished family photos adorning the walls, displaying forced smiles that hid the complicated reality within. My parents, Richard and Eleanor Radcliffe, were pillars of their respective industries. Dad, a self-made titan in the tech world who founded Radcliffe Innovations, and Mom, a renowned architect. We weren't just comfortable, we were privileged, with every material comfort imaginable. Financial struggles weren't supposed to be in my future, or so I thought. My sister, Lana, was 2 years older than me, but somehow always seemed miles ahead in our parents' eyes. With her perfectly styled blonde hair, effortless academic achievements, and natural charisma, she embodied everything they valued: outward perfection and easy success. From a young age, Lana was the golden child, the one who effortlessly excelled in everything she touched. Her report cards were consistently filled with A's, her artistic endeavors lauded by art teachers, and her social life a whirlwind of popularity. My parents practically glowed with pride whenever she entered a room, their adoration palpable. I, on the other hand, was the quiet, observant one. My interests leaned towards the intricate workings of computers, the logic of code, and the thrill of problem-solving. While Lana was at ballet or piano lessons, I was dismantling old electronics, trying to understand how they worked, often emerging from my makeshift lab in the garage covered in grease and dust. My grades were solid, mostly B's and A's, but they never garnered the same enthusiastic praise as Lana's perfect scores. My parents saw my fascination with technology as a quirky hobby, a phase I would eventually outgrow. "Chloe, darling, why don't you try something more ladylike?" my mother would often suggest, gently nudging me towards dance or painting, activities I had little interest in. Dad, preoccupied with the burgeoning success of Radcliffe Innovations, rarely engaged with my technical pursuits. He'd offer a fleeting nod, a distracted "that's nice, sweetheart," before turning his attention back to Lana's latest achievement. The message, unspoken but clear, was that Lana was destined for greatness, and I was just Chloe. One specific instance stands out from my early childhood, a vivid snapshot of the differential treatment. It was my 10th birthday. I had meticulously saved up my allowance for months to buy a robotics kit, a complex assembly that promised to teach me about gears and circuits. I had hinted for weeks that this was all I wanted. When the big day arrived, I unwrapped a beautiful, albeit expensive, dollhouse. Lana, meanwhile, who had expressed a casual interest in photography, received a top-of-the-line DSLR camera. The disappointment was a bitter pill. When I tearfully explained to my mother that I had wanted the robotics kit, she simply patted my head and said, "But darling, girls play with dollhouses. Besides, your father thought this was much more appropriate for a young lady." It was a seemingly small moment, but it reinforced a burgeoning sense of being misunderstood, of having my passions dismissed. As we grew older, the chasm between us widened. Lana thrived in the spotlight, effortlessly charming everyone she met. She excelled in debate, became president of her class, and was the captain of the cheerleading squad. Her path seemed preordained for success, a seamless progression from high school to a prestigious university, and then, undoubtedly, into a prominent role at Radcliffe Innovations. Our parents spoke of her future at the company as a given, a natural inheritance. My own aspirations, however, were rarely discussed. When I brought up my desire to pursue computer science in college, my father chuckled. "Chloe, the tech industry is a tough world, not really for, well, you know. Why not consider something in marketing? It's more creative." The implication was that I lacked the acumen, the grit, to succeed in a field I was genuinely passionate about. The subtle dismissals escalated in high school. While Lana's every academic and extracurricular achievement was celebrated with grand pronouncements and family dinners, my own quiet victories went largely unnoticed. I won the regional robotics competition in my junior year, beating out teams from highly competitive schools. I spent months building and coding a complex automaton that could solve a multi-level puzzle. It was a moment of immense personal pride. When I hesitantly showed the trophy to my parents, my mother gave it a cursory glance. "Oh, that's nice, dear. Did you remember to set the table for dinner?" My father, engrossed in a business call, simply grunted in acknowledgement. The lack of genuine interest, the casual indifference, stung more than any outright criticism ever could. It made me question my own worth, made me wonder if my efforts were truly insignificant in their eyes. Lana, on the other hand, was always front and center. I remember her senior year, when she was nominated for a prestigious scholarship. The entire house buzzed with excitement. My parents threw a lavish party to celebrate her nomination, inviting family friends and business associates. They spoke glowingly of her intellect, her leadership, her boundless potential. During the toasts, my father raised his glass and declared, "Lana is the future of Radcliffe Innovations. She has the vision, the drive, the natural aptitude to take this company to new heights." I sat quietly in a corner, nursing a lemonade, feeling like an invisible observer in my own home. The message was clear. Lana was the heir apparent, and I was merely a bystander. Despite the constant feeling of being overshadowed, I harbored a secret hope. Radcliffe Innovations was my father's life's work, and in a way, it was mine too. From a young age, I had spent hours poring over their annual reports, understanding their market strategies, and dreaming of the day I could contribute my own technical expertise. I genuinely loved the company, not just because it was my father's, but because of its innovative spirit and its impact on the industry. I believed that if I could just prove myself, if I could demonstrate my capabilities, they would see me. They would finally acknowledge my true potential. My only confidant during these tumultuous years was Liam O'Connell, a childhood friend who lived next door. Liam was a few years older than me, already in college and pursuing a degree in computer engineering. He saw my passion, my hidden talents, and my quiet frustrations. "Chloe," he'd say, leaning against the fence that separated our yards, "your parents might not see it now, but you're a genius. Seriously, the way you figure things out, the way your mind works, it's incredible. Don't let their blindness dim your light." His unwavering belief was a lifeline, a flickering flame of hope in the pervasive darkness of my parents' skepticism. He was the first person who truly saw me, truly understood my ambitions. Another unexpected ally emerged in my senior year of high school, Mr. Henderson, my computer science teacher. He was an older gentleman, gruff on the surface, but with a keen eye for genuine talent. He recognized my innate aptitude for coding and problem-solving, pushing me to take on more challenging projects. "Radcliffe," he'd bark, "you're wasting your time on these beginner exercises. Try this. It'll make your brain sweat." He pushed me beyond the curriculum, introducing me to advanced algorithms and complex network architecture. It was in his class that I truly began to flourish, to feel seen and appreciated for my intellect. During a parent-teacher conference, Mr. Henderson tried to convey my abilities to my parents. "Mr. and Mrs. Radcliffe," he began, his voice firm, "Chloe has an exceptional mind for computer science. She's one of the most gifted students I've had in years. She has the potential to achieve remarkable things in this field." My mother smiled politely. "Oh, Mr. Henderson, you're too kind. Chloe is a sweet girl, but she's not really technically inclined." My father simply nodded, checking his watch. Mr. Henderson's face fell, a subtle flicker of disappointment in his eyes. It was a crushing moment, realizing that even an external validation of my abilities couldn't penetrate their preconceived notions. After graduating from a respectable, though not Ivy League, university with a degree in computer science, I eagerly applied for an entry-level position at Radcliffe Innovations. My father, surprisingly, agreed to an interview. I meticulously prepared, rehearsing answers to potential questions, reviewing the company's recent projects, and even brainstorming a few innovative ideas to impress him. The interview itself felt more like a formality, a polite concession. My father mostly spoke about Lana, who, fresh out of an Ivy League business school, had just been appointed to a junior executive role in the marketing department. "Lana has a natural flair for business," he'd say, his eyes gleaming with pride. "She understands the market instinctively." He offered me a position, but it wasn't the entry-level software development role I had hoped for. Instead, he placed me in data entry. "It's a good place to start, Chloe," he explained, his tone dismissive. "You can learn the ropes, understand the company from the ground up." The implication was clear. I wasn't ready for anything more substantial, despite my degree and my genuine interest in their core technical operations. It felt like a demotion before I had even begun, a clear sign that my capabilities were still being undervalued. Lana, meanwhile, was soaring. Her name was constantly mentioned in company newsletters, her ideas praised in internal memos. She quickly rose through the ranks, her marketing campaigns consistently lauded for their creativity and effectiveness. While she was attending high-profile meetings and making crucial decisions, I was sifting through spreadsheets, inputting data, a monotonous task that offered no challenge or growth. The injustice was a constant dull ache. I tried to make the best of it, hoping that if I proved my diligence and reliability, I would eventually be given a chance to showcase my technical skills. I completed my data entry tasks with meticulous accuracy, often finishing my work ahead of schedule. During my downtime, I started subtly observing the company's internal systems, noticing inefficiencies in their data management and workflow processes. I even began to conceptualize potential solutions. My breakthrough, or what I thought would be my breakthrough, came after 6 months in data entry. I had spent countless nights and weekends developing a new algorithm to optimize their inventory management system. Their existing system was clunky, prone to errors, and causing significant delays in shipping. My algorithm, if implemented, could streamline the entire process, saving the company substantial time and money. I pored over market research, ran simulations, and created a detailed presentation outlining my findings and proposed solution. I was convinced this was my moment. I nervously scheduled a meeting with my father, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. I walked into his spacious office, the familiar smell of leather and success filling the air. He listened patiently, his expression unreadable, as I enthusiastically explained my algorithm, detailing the potential cost savings and efficiency gains. When I finished, a hopeful silence hung in the air. Then, he leaned back in his executive chair, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Chloe," he said, his voice soft, almost paternal, "that's interesting. Very creative. But," and here it came, the familiar dismissal, "we have established procedures, and we're not looking to overhaul our entire system based on a new hire's pet project. Besides, Lana is already exploring a partnership with a third-party logistics company that promises similar improvements." My heart sank. My carefully crafted solution, my months of hard work, dismissed in a few patronizing sentences. He didn't even bother to look at the detailed projections or the technical specifications. It was a rejection not just of my algorithm, but of my entire contribution, my very ability to think critically and innovatively within his company. Then, the true blow landed. A few weeks later, I overheard a conversation between my father and Lana in the hallway outside my cubicle. "Lana," my father's voice boomed, full of admiration, "that logistics partnership you secured is brilliant. It's going to save us a fortune." Lana's voice, sweet and smug, responded, "Yes, Dad. I told you it was the best approach. It's always better to outsource these things than to try and reinvent the wheel, especially when you're dealing with unproven ideas." The implication was clear. My father had not only dismissed my work, but had actively praised a solution that directly contradicted my own, all while Lana subtly disparaged my efforts. It felt like a double betrayal. Not only was my father incapable of seeing my worth, but my sister was actively undermining my attempts to contribute. The bitterness was a sharp, acrid taste in my mouth. But the actual breaking point, the moment that truly solidified my resolve to leave and forge my own path, came a month later. It was during a quarterly strategy meeting, a meeting I was only allowed to attend to take notes. Lana was presenting her latest marketing initiative, a bold new digital campaign. She was articulate, confident, and utterly captivating. My father beamed at her from the head of the table. Towards the end of the meeting, the topic shifted to data security, a critical issue for a tech company like Radcliffe Innovations. My father casually mentioned a recent minor breach that had been quickly contained. "Nothing to worry about," he assured everyone. "Our systems are robust." I, however, knew better. In my data entry role, I had stumbled upon a significant vulnerability, a backdoor left open by a careless update. I had tried to report it through the proper channels, but my concerns had been repeatedly dismissed as newbie paranoia. Now, hearing my father downplay a potential catastrophe, I couldn't stay silent. "Excuse me, Dad," I interjected, my voice trembling slightly but firm. "I believe there's a more serious vulnerability. I discovered a backdoor in the legacy system last month. It's not a minor issue. It could compromise client data." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to me, a mix of surprise and annoyance on their faces. Lana, her composure unruffled, let out a small, condescending laugh. "Chloe, please," she said, her tone dripping with false concern. "You're just in data entry. You wouldn't understand the complexities of our network infrastructure." My father, his face hardening, cut me off. "Chloe, that's enough. We have experts handling cybersecurity. Your input is not needed here." But I couldn't back down. "With all due respect, Dad, I am an expert in this area. I spent my university years studying network security. And I'm telling you, this is a serious flaw." Lana then delivered the crushing blow, her voice dripping with disdain. "Oh, Chloe, always trying to be the hero. You know, Dad and I were just talking about your performance. It seems you're more interested in creating drama than actually contributing. Perhaps Radcliffe Innovations isn't the right fit for you." She looked at my father, a silent appeal in her eyes. My father, without missing a beat, nodded. "Lana's right, Chloe. We appreciate your enthusiasm, but perhaps a different environment would be more suitable. We'll arrange for your severance package, effective immediately." My breath caught in my throat. Fired. From my own father's company. For trying to help, for pointing out a critical flaw that could jeopardize the entire business. It was a cold, brutal dismissal, delivered without a hint of remorse. The words, "She deserved it, but you didn't," echoed in my mind, a cruel twist on the truth. Lana had deserved to be where she was, effortlessly gliding through the corporate hierarchy, while I, the one who genuinely cared, the one with the actual technical expertise, was deemed unworthy. I remember walking out of that meeting room, my head held high, though my heart was shattering into a million pieces. The humiliation was immense, the sense of betrayal suffocating. I packed up my meager belongings from my cubicle, the silence of my departure a stark contrast to the celebratory buzz that always surrounded Lana. As I walked out of the Radcliffe Innovations building, the place I had once dreamed of contributing to, a fierce resolve hardened within me. This wasn't just about being fired. It was about being dismissed, undervalued, and ultimately erased. And I vowed, then and there, that I would make them see they would regret this day. Being fired from Radcliffe Innovations was, paradoxically, the best thing that could have happened to me. The initial shock quickly gave way to a potent cocktail of anger, humiliation, and a burning desire for vindication. My parents' reaction, or rather, their lack thereof, only fueled my resolve. My mother offered a perfunctory, "I'm sure something else will come along, dear," before launching into a detailed account of Lana's latest promotion. My father simply avoided eye contact, his silence a louder condemnation than any words. It was clear, they saw my dismissal as a validation of their long-held belief that I was simply not cut out for the business world, especially not their business world. For the first few weeks, I felt adrift. The well of my self-confidence, already shallow, had been completely drained. I spent my days holed up in my small apartment, scrolling through job boards, each rejection email a fresh sting. The financial pressure began to mount. My savings were dwindling rapidly, and the prospect of asking my parents for help was abhorrent. I would rather starve than give them another reason to look down on me. It was during this period of despondency that Liam became my rock. He called me every day, his voice a steady presence in my turmoil. Chloe, this isn't the end. It's a new beginning. They didn't see your value, but there are plenty of people who will. You're brilliant, remember? Don't let their small-mindedness define you. He helped me update my resume, pointing out my technical strengths and underplaying the data entry role. He even coached me for interviews, boosting my morale when I felt like giving up. My former computer science teacher, Mr. Henderson, also reached out. He had heard through the grapevine about my dismissal. Radcliffe, he said, his gruff voice surprisingly gentle over the phone, I always knew you were destined for more than that place. You're a builder, not a cog. Don't let this set you back. Use it as fuel. He offered to write me a glowing letter of recommendation, highlighting my technical skills and innovative thinking. His belief in me was a powerful antidote to the poison of my parents' dismissiveness. With Liam's encouragement and Mr. Henderson's endorsement, I started broadening my job search beyond traditional corporate roles. I began looking at startups, at companies that valued innovation and agile thinking over rigid hierarchies. My first break came in the form of a small, fledgling tech startup called Nexus Labs. They were working on developing a cutting-edge AI-driven data analytics platform, and they were desperately in need of a skilled software engineer. The pay was significantly lower than what I had hoped for, but the work was exactly what I craved: challenging, innovative, and deeply technical. My interview with Dr. Anya Sharma, the CEO and founder of Nexus Labs, was a stark contrast to the sterile formality of my father's office. Dr. Sharma was a force of nature, a brilliant computer scientist with a passion for pushing boundaries. She listened intently as I described my previous experience, not just at Radcliffe Innovations, but also my independent projects, my robotics competition win, and even my conceptual algorithm for inventory optimization. She asked probing questions, truly engaging with my ideas. When I tentatively mentioned my dismissal from my father's company, a shadow of understanding crossed her face. Family businesses can be complicated, she said, her voice empathetic. Sometimes, the biggest obstacles aren't technical, but personal. She saw beyond the dismissal, recognizing the potential within me. She even asked me to elaborate on the security vulnerability I had identified at Radcliffe Innovations, nodding thoughtfully as I explained the technical details. Chloe, she finally said, her eyes alight with a shrewd intelligence, you have a sharp mind and a tenacity I admire. This isn't just about coding, it's about problem solving, about seeing what others miss. We need someone like you here. Welcome to Nexus Labs. Joining Nexus Labs was like stepping into a different world. The atmosphere was collaborative, energetic, and brimming with a shared passion for innovation. There were no rigid hierarchies, no stifling bureaucracies. Ideas were encouraged, mistakes were seen as learning opportunities, and every contribution was valued. I thrived in this environment. My first project at Nexus Labs was to help refine their core AI algorithms. It was a daunting task, requiring me to delve into complex machine learning models and optimize their performance. I often worked late into the night, fueled by strong coffee and an insatiable desire to prove myself. Liam, still my steadfast supporter, would sometimes bring me dinner, listening patiently as I excitedly explained the intricacies of my code. You're doing amazing, Chloe, he'd tell me, his words a gentle balm to my lingering insecurities. Meanwhile, news from Radcliffe Innovations occasionally trickled back to me, usually through the industry grapevine or through mutual acquaintances. Lana was still rising, a veritable star in her father's company. She was featured in industry magazines, lauded for her strategic acumen. Each piece of news, each glowing article, was a fresh reminder of the chasm between our paths, a constant whisper of doubt in the back of my mind. Was I truly on the right path? Would my quiet, arduous work ever amount to the same level of recognition and success? But the answers started to emerge in the small victories, the incremental progress I made at Nexus Labs. I successfully optimized one of their core algorithms, leading to a significant improvement in data processing speed. Dr. Sharma called me into her office, her face beaming. "Chloe, your work on this is phenomenal. You've cut our processing time by nearly 30%. This is a game changer for our platform." Her genuine praise was a refreshing change from the dismissive nods I had become accustomed to. I continued to take on increasingly complex projects, immersing myself in the world of AI and data analytics. I learned new programming languages, mastered advanced statistical models, and even started mentoring junior engineers. My confidence, slowly but surely, began to rebuild. I started to see myself not as the overlooked daughter, but as a capable and valuable professional in my own right. My efforts didn't go unnoticed. After a year, Dr. Sharma promoted me to lead software engineer, entrusting me with the responsibility of overseeing a team of developers and spearheading the development of their next-generation AI platform. The salary increase was substantial, enough to finally move into a nicer apartment, a small but significant step towards financial independence. The sense of achievement was immense, a quiet triumph that was all my own. The promotion to lead software engineer at Nexus Labs marked a significant turning point. It wasn't just a change in title, it was a shift in perception, both internally within the company and, more importantly, within myself. For the first time, I felt truly empowered, my ideas not only heard, but actively sought after. Dr. Sharma, with her unwavering faith in my abilities, continued to be an incredible mentor, pushing me to take on more leadership responsibilities and challenging me to think bigger. My first major project as lead software engineer was developing a predictive analytics module for Nexus Labs' flagship platform. This module would allow clients to forecast market trends with unprecedented accuracy, providing them with a significant competitive advantage. The project was incredibly complex, requiring me to integrate cutting-edge machine learning techniques with vast datasets. I immersed myself in the work, often spending 12 to 14 hours a day, driven by the thrill of the challenge and the desire to create something truly impactful. The team I led was small but incredibly dedicated. We worked collaboratively, fueled by late-night coding sessions and copious amounts of coffee. There were moments of frustration, of course, when algorithms refused to cooperate or data models proved stubbornly resistant to optimization. But unlike my experience at Radcliffe Innovations, here, setbacks were met with brainstorming sessions, not dismissive shrugs. My team members trusted my leadership, and their respect was a constant source of motivation. One particularly challenging bug threatened to derail our entire timeline. We had been working on it for days, pulling all-nighters, but the solution remained elusive. I remember one evening, slumped at my desk, feeling a familiar wave of self-doubt creeping in. Was I truly capable of leading this? Was I just a fluke? Liam, who had stopped by to drop off a homemade dinner, found me staring blankly at my code. He sat beside me, patiently listening as I explained the problem, offering a comforting presence. "Take a break, Chloe," he urged gently. "Sometimes the best solutions come when you step away." His simple act of support was enough to re-energize me. The next morning, a fresh perspective, I cracked the bug. The feeling of triumph was exhilarating. The predictive analytics module launched to widespread acclaim. Early adopters raved about its accuracy and its intuitive interface. Sales soared, and Nexus Labs, once a small startup, began to gain significant traction in the competitive tech market. Industry publications started featuring articles about Nexus Labs' innovative solutions, and my name, as the lead software engineer, began to appear in those articles. It was surreal to see my name, once dismissed as irrelevant, now associated with groundbreaking technology. Around this time, news from Radcliffe Innovations started to paint a less rosy picture. Through my limited professional network, I heard whispers of internal strife, of missed targets, and a general stagnation in innovation. Lana, it seemed, was still very much in charge, but her focus remained primarily on marketing and external partnerships. The technical core of the company, the very foundation my father had built, seemed to be faltering. I heard that their security systems, the very ones I had tried to warn them about, had suffered a more significant breach, costing them several high-profile clients and a considerable amount of money. A bitter satisfaction settled within me, a grim confirmation of my earlier warnings. As Nexus Labs continued its meteoric rise, so did my own professional standing. The success of the predictive analytics module led to even more challenging and high-profile projects. I became the face of Nexus Labs' technical innovations, frequently invited to speak at industry conferences and participate in expert panels. It was at these events that I started encountering familiar faces, former colleagues from Radcliffe Innovations, acquaintances of my parents, and even, occasionally, some of my father's business associates. Their reactions were always a mix of surprise, recognition, and a subtle discomfort. "Chloe? Is that really you?" You've changed," they'd say, their eyes widening as they processed the confident, articulate woman on stage. I saw the gears turning in their minds, the slow realization that the quiet, dismissed daughter they once knew was now a respected leader in a rapidly growing tech company. It was a silent, satisfying vindication. One particularly memorable encounter happened at a major tech summit in San Francisco. I had just finished delivering a keynote address on the future of AI and data analytics, receiving a standing ovation. As I stepped off the stage, a man approached me, his face a mask of polite surprise. It was Mr. Davies, a longtime board member at Radcliffe Innovations, a man who had been present in the meeting where I was fired. "Chloe Radcliffe?" he asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Is that truly you? I barely recognized you." I smiled politely, a cool composure belying the internal triumph I felt. "Hello, Mr. Davies. It's been a while." He stammered for a moment, clearly trying to reconcile the successful woman before him with the unproven employee he had once dismissed. You've done quite well for yourself," he managed, his gaze flickering nervously. "Nexus Labs is making quite a splash." "Impressive work." "Thank you, Mr. Davies," I replied, my voice steady. "We've built a strong team and a truly innovative product." I could see the wheels turning in his mind, the likely memory of my dismissal, the casual dismissal of my talents. The discomfort on his face was palpable, a silent testament to the shift in our respective positions. This continued recognition, these subtle acknowledgments of my success, served as powerful affirmations. They chipped away at the lingering self-doubt, replacing it with a growing sense of accomplishment and genuine pride. I was no longer defined by my past failures or the dismissals of my family. I was defined by my capabilities, my hard work, and the tangible impact I was making in the industry. The narrative of my success reached my parents, not through direct communication from me, but through the media, through industry buzz. I imagined them, perhaps at a dinner party, hearing their friends or business associates mention Chloe Radcliffe and Nexus Labs. I wondered if it made them pause, if it forced them to reevaluate their long-held perceptions. I suspected it did, but they never directly acknowledged it. Their silence, in a way, was its own form of recognition. My father, particularly, was a man of immense pride. To see his daughter, the one he had deemed unfit for his company, now leading a competing firm with such success, must have been a bitter pill to swallow. I never sought their approval directly, but the universe had a way of delivering vindication in its own dramatic fashion. One day, I received a message from Lana. It was a terse, formal email requesting a meeting. My heart pounded as I read the sender's name. Lana. After all these years of silence, of her basking in the glow of my father's approval while I struggled in obscurity, she was reaching out. It was a moment I had envisioned countless times, a confrontation that had played out in my dreams in myriad ways. But now that it was here, I felt a strange sense of calm. The game had changed. I was no longer the desperate, overlooked sister. I was Chloe Radcliffe, CEO of a thriving tech company, and I held all the cards. The email from Lana landed in my inbox like a carefully placed bomb. It was direct, almost brusque, asking for a confidential meeting to discuss a matter of mutual interest. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of the past, just a thinly veiled plea. My initial reaction was a surge of righteous indignation. Mutual interest? After all you put me through? But a cooler head prevailed. This was my moment, not for an emotional outburst, but for strategic advantage. I consulted with Dr. Sharma, who, now a trusted friend and mentor, had also become my business partner. Nexus Labs had grown exponentially, and she had recently appointed me as Chief Technology Officer, CTO, with a significant equity stake in the company. My name was no longer just associated with groundbreaking technology. It was synonymous with the very success of Nexus Labs. Lana wants to meet? Dr. Sharma raised an eyebrow, a knowing glint in her eyes. Interesting. The tide certainly turns, doesn't it? I explained the history, the long-standing family dynamics, and the bitter circumstances of my dismissal. Dr. Sharma listened intently, her expression thoughtful. Chloe, she advised, her voice firm, this isn't just about family grievances anymore. This is business. Approach it with a clear head. What do you want out of this meeting? What I wanted, I realized, was not revenge in the petty sense. I wanted acknowledgement. I wanted them to confront the truth of their past actions and the consequences they had wrought. I wanted them to see, truly see, the capable individual they had so carelessly discarded. And perhaps I wanted to understand the extent of their predicament. I replied to Lana's email, agreeing to a meeting but setting the terms. It would be at my office at Nexus Labs, and it would be a professional discussion, nothing more. Her quick acceptance, without any attempt to negotiate the terms, spoke volumes about her desperation. The day of the meeting arrived. I sat in my spacious, modern office at Nexus Labs, the panoramic city view stretching out behind me. It was a stark contrast to the small, cramped cubicle I had occupied at Radcliffe Innovations years ago. My assistant, a sharp young woman named Maya, announced Lana's arrival. Lana walked in, and for a moment, time seemed to blur. She looked older, her usually impeccable facade showing subtle cracks. Her eyes, once so self-assured, now held a flicker of something akin to vulnerability, or perhaps simply weariness. She was still impeccably dressed, but the aura of effortless superiority that had once surrounded her was conspicuously absent. "Chloe," she began, her voice a little strained, "thank you for seeing me." I simply nodded, gesturing to the chair opposite my desk. "Lana, what can I do for you?" My tone was calm, professional, devoid of any emotional charge. I wanted to project an image of detached authority, to show her that the power dynamic had irrevocably shifted. She cleared her throat, clearly uncomfortable. "I'll get straight to the point, Chloe. Radcliffe Innovations is facing some significant challenges." My heart gave a small, involuntary leap. Challenges. That was an understatement, I knew. The whispers had grown louder in recent months, detailing a steady decline in market share, a series of failed product launches, and a significant exodus of key talent. The security breach I had warned them about years ago had apparently led to a series of more sophisticated attacks, crippling their infrastructure and eroding client trust. "I'm aware of the industry rumors," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. "What specifically are you hoping to achieve with this meeting, Lana?" She hesitated, her gaze darting around my impressive office, taking in the state-of-the-art technology and the bustling activity visible through the glass walls of Nexus Labs. We're in a critical situation, Chloe. Our core platform is outdated, our market position is eroding, and frankly, our technological infrastructure is crumbling. We've tried everything, new marketing campaigns, strategic partnerships, but nothing seems to stem the bleeding." She paused, taking a deep breath. "Dad, he's been under a lot of stress. He's looking to me to fix this, but I'm not equipped for it. Not in the way we need to be fixed." Her voice dropped, a hint of genuine desperation creeping in. "We need a technological overhaul, something radical. Something like what you've built here at Nexus Labs." My eyes narrowed slightly. This was it. The moment I had subconsciously waited for. "And what exactly do you propose, Lana?" She met my gaze, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of the old Lana, the one who was always in control, always strategizing. But this time, the strategy was born of desperation, not arrogance. "We need your help, Chloe. We need Nexus Labs. We need your expertise, your team, your technology, to save Radcliffe Innovations." The words hung in the air, heavy with irony and the weight of years of unspoken grievances. My sister, the golden child, the one who had so casually dismissed my capabilities and orchestrated my removal from my father's company, was now here, in my office, implicitly begging for my help. It wasn't the dramatic confrontation I had sometimes fantasized about, but it was far more satisfying. It was a quiet, undeniable triumph. Lana's plea hung in the air, a potent mixture of desperation and thinly veiled pride. The silence that followed was thick, punctuated only by the distant hum of the city. I allowed it to linger, letting the weight of her words settle, letting the full irony of the situation sink in. This wasn't just about my personal vindication, it was about the strategic positioning of Nexus Labs. "Lana," I finally said, my voice measured and calm, "you understand the gravity of what you're asking, don't you? Radcliffe Innovations is facing systemic issues, not just a few technical glitches. It would require a monumental effort, a complete restructuring of their technological backbone." She nodded, her shoulders slumped slightly. "We understand. That's why we came to you. We've seen what you've done with Nexus Labs. Your AI platform, your data analytics, your vision. It's exactly what Radcliffe Innovations needs to survive." The phrasing, "your vision," was a significant shift. For years, my vision had been dismissed, scoffed at. Now it was their salvation. And what about my father? I pressed, curious about his involvement in this desperate plea. Is he aware you're here? Lana hesitated. He's aware of the situation. He knows we need a drastic solution. He's entrusted me to explore all options. There was a subtle evasion, a hint that perhaps my father wasn't entirely thrilled about the prospect of seeking my help, but he was desperate enough to allow it. Very well, I said, leaning back in my chair. Let's be clear, Lana. Any engagement between Nexus Labs and Radcliffe Innovations would be strictly on our terms. This isn't a charity mission. This is a business transaction. And a very significant one. Lana's eyes, which had held a flicker of hope, clouded with apprehension. What kind of terms are we talking about, Chloe? First and foremost, I began, my voice firm. Radcliffe Innovations would need to fully integrate our entire suite of AI and data analytics solutions across all their operations. This isn't a superficial patch-up job. It's a complete technological overhaul. It would mean decommissioning their outdated systems and adopting ours entirely. Lana winced. That's a massive undertaking. And expensive. It's the cost of survival, I stated plainly. Secondly, given the depth of their technical issues, Nexus Labs would need to assume full control of their IT and R&D departments for a minimum of 3 years, effectively acting as their in-house technology leadership. My team would be implementing the changes, ensuring a seamless transition, and building a new foundation for their future. Her eyes widened. Full control? But that would mean... It would mean my team making the crucial technical decisions. I finished for her. It would mean my expertise guiding their technological future. No interference, no second guessing. I remembered the countless times my technical advice had been ignored, dismissed as unproven ideas. This time, there would be no room for such folly. Thirdly, I continued, and this is non-negotiable. There would need to be a formal acknowledgement, publicly, of the extent of Radcliffe Innovations' technical debt and the role Nexus Labs plays in its remediation. This isn't just about fixing systems, it's about transparency and accountability. I envisioned the press releases, the industry announcements, a subtle but undeniable acknowledgement of my prior warnings and their current reliance on my company. Lana's face was a study in conflicted emotions, a mix of shock, exasperation, and dawning realization. Chloe, these are very aggressive terms. They are necessary terms, Lana, I countered, my voice unwavering. Radcliffe Innovations is on the brink. We are offering a lifeline, but we are not doing it for free, nor are we doing it without ensuring we have the authority to implement the solutions effectively. She stood up, walking to the window, her back to me. I could sense her internal struggle, the pride warring with the desperate need. Finally, she turned, her face pale. I'll need to discuss this with Dad. These are significant demands. They are, I agreed. And time is of the essence, Lana. The market isn't waiting for Radcliffe Innovations to catch up. Every day they delay, they fall further behind. She nodded slowly. I'll get back to you. As she left my office, I felt a strange mix of emotions. There was no joy in her discomfort, no raw pleasure in her obvious distress. Instead, there was a quiet satisfaction, a profound sense of having come full circle. The undervalued, dismissed daughter was now in a position of power, holding the keys to the future of the very company that had once cast her aside. The battle wasn't just won, it had been decisively turned. And the true vindication, I knew, was yet to come. The days following Lana's visit stretched into an agonizing wait. I maintained a calm exterior, but beneath the surface, a whirlwind of emotions churned. Would they accept my terms? Would my father, in his stubborn pride, rather see Radcliffe Innovations crumble than concede to my demands? The uncertainty was unsettling, but I refused to allow it to overshadow the quiet triumph I had already experienced. During this period, I confided in Dr. Sharma more fully about my family history. She listened empathetically, offering insights not just as a business partner, but as a friend. "Chloe," she said, her voice gentle, "your father's pride is a formidable opponent. But remember, the greater the pride, the harder the fall. He's facing a choice between legacy and survival. And legacy, for men like him, can be a powerful motivator." Liam also remained my steadfast support system. I told him about Lana's visit, and he celebrated my firm stance. "You stood your ground, Chloe. That's incredible. They need you, not the other way around. Don't let them forget that." His unwavering belief in me continued to be a source of strength, reminding me of how far I had come from the insecure young woman who doubted her own worth. A week passed. Then another. No word from Lana. I wondered if they had decided to go a different route, if my terms were indeed too steep, or if my father's pride had simply won out. My team at Nexus Labs continued to innovate, to push boundaries, unaffected by the drama unfolding elsewhere. Our latest product, a highly customizable AI assistant for small businesses, was nearing its beta launch, and the initial feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Our success, I realized, was no longer dependent on Radcliffe Innovations' failure. We were thriving independently. Then, on a Tuesday morning, my phone rang. It was Lana. Her voice, when she spoke, was devoid of its usual carefully constructed confidence. It was strained, tinged with a weariness I had never heard before. "Chloe," she said, her voice almost a whisper, "Dad, he's agreed to your terms." "All of them." My breath hitched. Despite preparing myself for this, the confirmation still sent a jolt through me. "All of them," I repeated, wanting to be absolutely certain. "Yes," she confirmed, a sigh escaping her lips. "The full integration of Nexus Lab solutions. Your team taking over IT and R&D. And the public acknowledgement." Her voice broke slightly on the last point, betraying the immense difficulty this concession represented for their family's proud legacy. "He fought it, didn't he?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "He did," Lana admitted, a note of grim respect in her voice. "He yelled, he threatened, he even tried to pull strings with his old contacts. But the numbers, the projections were undeniable. We're losing clients, our infrastructure is failing, and we're bleeding money. There's no other way, Chloe." He finally saw that it was either this, or the company collapses entirely. A wave of complex emotions washed over me. There was the satisfaction of being proven right, of seeing my warnings years ago finally validated by their dire circumstances. But there was also a tinge of sadness for my father, a man whose entire identity was wrapped up in Radcliffe Innovations, now forced to swallow his pride and surrender control. "When do you want to start?" I asked, my voice calm and professional. "As soon as possible," Lana replied, relief palpable in her tone. "We're on the verge of defaulting on some major contracts. We need to move quickly. Send over the formal proposal and contract for review," I instructed. "My legal team will go over it, and we can set a timeline from there." Hanging up the phone, I walked over to my window, looking out at the sprawling city below. The feeling wasn't triumph, not exactly. It was something deeper, more profound. It was the quiet acknowledgement of a hard-won battle, a testament to resilience, and the undeniable power of perseverance. The narrative had shifted. I was no longer the discarded daughter. I was the architect of their salvation, a position earned through years of tireless effort and an unwavering belief in my own capabilities. And the final act of this long-running drama, the public vindication, was about to unfold. The announcement was carefully orchestrated, a joint press conference held in a grand ballroom that felt far too opulent for the grim reality it masked. The air buzzed with a mix of anticipation and curiosity. Industry analysts, financial journalists, and tech reporters packed the room, eager to hear the details of this unexpected partnership between the established, if struggling, Radcliffe Innovations and the surging, innovative Nexus Labs. My father, Richard Radcliffe, stood at the podium, his face etched with a mixture of forced composure and visible strain. He looked older, his shoulders slightly stooped, the usual leonine confidence replaced by a weary resignation. Beside him stood Lana, her expression a careful mask of professionalism, though I could detect a faint tremor in her hand as she adjusted the microphone. I stood next to Dr. Sharma, our shared strength a silent testament to the journey Nexus Labs had undertaken. My posture was relaxed, confident, a stark contrast to the rigidity of my family. I wore a simple, elegant business suit, designed to convey competence rather than flash. My hair was pulled back, my gaze steady and direct. I was prepared for this. I had envisioned this moment for years. My father began his address, his voice formal and measured. He spoke of the strategic alliance between the two companies, highlighting the synergies and mutual benefits. He meticulously avoided any direct mention of Radcliffe Innovations' struggles or Nexus Labs' role as their rescuer. It was a classic corporate spin, designed to save face. Then, he reached the part of the speech that had been explicitly negotiated. He cleared his throat, his gaze momentarily flickering to me before returning to the teleprompter. And we are particularly excited to welcome the exceptional technological expertise of Nexus Labs, led by its visionary CTO, Dr. Chloe Radcliffe, and its esteemed CEO, Dr. Anya Sharma. Their innovative solutions will be instrumental in modernizing Radcliffe Innovations and positioning us for future growth. The words Dr. Chloe Radcliffe hung in the air, a subtle but unmistakable shift. It was the first public acknowledgement of my professional title, my academic achievement, and my significant role in Nexus Labs' success. I saw a ripple of surprise go through the assembled journalists. Some exchanged glances, clearly recognizing the last name. The murmurs began. Lana then stepped forward, her turn to speak. She echoed my father's sentiments, attempting to project an image of seamless collaboration. But as she spoke, her eyes met mine across the podium, and for a fleeting moment, I saw it, a flicker of something akin to shame, or perhaps regret. It was quickly masked, but it was there. Then came my turn. I stepped forward, the microphone cold in my hand. I started by acknowledging the opportunity for collaboration, maintaining a professional and even-keeled tone. But then I shifted. Radcliffe Innovations, I began, my voice clear and resonant, is a company with a long and storied history. However, like many established businesses, it has, over time, accumulated significant technological debt. This debt, if left unaddressed, can stifle innovation, compromise security, and ultimately undermine a company's competitive edge. I paused, letting my words sink in. My father stiffened beside me, his jaw clenching. Lana's eyes widened, a flicker of alarm in their depths. This wasn't the carefully sanitized corporate jargon they were used to. At Nexus Labs, I continued, my voice gaining a subtle edge of conviction. We believe in confronting challenges head-on. Our core philosophy is built on the premise that technological foresight and proactive innovation are not luxuries, but necessities. It is this philosophy that led us to develop the advanced AI and data analytics platforms that will now form the backbone of Radcliffe Innovation's future operations. I looked directly at the assembled journalists, my gaze unwavering. Our partnership with Radcliffe Innovations is not merely a strategic alliance. It is a fundamental technological transformation. We will be implementing comprehensive system overhauls, fortifying their digital infrastructure, and integrating predictive analytics to ensure they are not just reactive, but truly visionary in their market approach. I then dropped the direct, undeniable truth. This transition will require significant dedication and a willingness to embrace fundamental change. It is a process that will address the long-standing vulnerabilities that, if left unaddressed, could have led to irreversible consequences for the company. The words long-standing vulnerabilities and irreversible consequences hung in the air, pointed and unmistakable. I saw a few reporters scribble furiously in their notebooks. It was a subtle yet devastating public call-out, confirming every whisper of their internal struggles and, by extension, confirming my prior, dismissed warnings. Then came the Q&A session. A seasoned financial reporter, known for his sharp questions, raised his hand. "Dr. Radcliffe," he began, his eyes twinkling, "given your history with Radcliffe Innovations, having worked there previously, how do you feel about returning to lead their technological transformation?" My father and Lana visibly tensed. This was the moment. I met the reporter's gaze, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching my lips. "My time at Radcliffe Innovations was formative," I said, choosing my words carefully. "It provided me with a unique perspective on the challenges and opportunities within the industry. What I learned there, both about technology and about corporate culture, profoundly shaped my approach to building Nexus Labs into what it is today." Then I delivered the final, devastating blow, my voice calm but firm. "I believe that every experience, even a difficult one, can be a catalyst for growth. And I am confident that with Nexus Labs' expertise, Radcliffe Innovations will emerge from this transformation stronger and more resilient than ever. It's a testament to the power of innovation and the importance of truly valuing technical foresight." The implications were clear, though unspoken. My dismissal had been their biggest mistake. My foresight, once disregarded, was now their only hope. My past, difficult experience had forged the very company that was now their salvation. I saw my father's face turn ghostly pale, his eyes wide with a dawning realization of the public concession he had just made. Lana, beside him, seemed to shrink slightly, her practiced smile faltering. The devastating quote I had carried in my heart for years. "She deserved it, but you didn't," now felt like a hollow echo in the face of this undeniable truth. They had said she deserved success, and I didn't. But here I was, not just successful, but the one holding the keys to their survival. The vindication was complete, public, and utterly undeniable. The press conference was a watershed moment. The headlines the next day screamed with the story: "Nexus Labs to rescue Radcliffe Innovations in major tech overhaul. CTO Chloe Radcliffe returns to lead father's company transformation." The narrative was undeniable. The daughter who had been cast aside was now the savior. My father, once the epitome of unyielding pride, retreated into a quiet shell. He stopped attending public events, his once frequent media appearances ceasing entirely. I heard through Lana that he spent most of his days in his home office, reviewing old company files, a shadow of his former self. The humiliation of publicly admitting his company's dire straits and relying on my expertise had clearly taken a toll. He never directly spoke to me about it, but his silence, his absence from the public eye, was a powerful acknowledgement of his diminished standing. Lana, however, was forced to confront the new reality head-on. My team from Nexus Labs, led by me, began the monumental task of integrating our systems into Radcliffe Innovations. This meant extensive on-site presence, daily meetings, and direct collaboration. Lana, as the interim CEO, my father had stepped back, though he retained the chairman title, was my primary point of contact. The initial meetings were awkward, tense. She would try to assert her authority, to question my decisions, to subtly undermine my directives. But I held firm, always professional, always factual, always reminding her of the agreed-upon terms. Lana, I would say, calmly, as per the agreement, Nexus Labs has full control over the IT and R&D departments. This is the plan we agreed upon, and it's critical for successful integration. Her attempts at resistance gradually dwindled as she witnessed the efficiency and expertise of my team and the irrefutable positive impact of our changes. The truth was, Radcliffe Innovations was in a far worse state than I had even imagined. The security vulnerabilities I had warned them about years ago had indeed led to catastrophic data breaches, resulting in millions of dollars in losses and a significant erosion of client trust. Their internal systems were a tangled mess of outdated software and disparate databases, held together by sheer willpower and an unsustainable amount of manual labor. It was a testament to my father's sheer force of will that the company hadn't collapsed entirely already. As we systematically dismantled their old infrastructure and built a new one from the ground up, the full extent of their mismanagement and neglect became painfully clear. It wasn't just about bad decisions. It was about a fundamental lack of understanding of technological evolution, a stubborn adherence to outdated practices, and a blind spot for genuine innovation. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that Lana, as the heir apparent, had perpetuated this decline through her focus on superficial marketing and her disinterest in the core technical foundation of the company. One day, during a particularly grueling technical review session, Lana looked at a complex network diagram I had laid out. She squinted, clearly struggling to comprehend the intricacies. "Chloe," she said, her voice small, I don't understand half of this. All those years, I just assumed everything was fine. Dad always handled the tech side. I just focused on sales and marketing. It wasn't an apology, but it was an admission, a crack in her carefully constructed facade of effortless superiority. For the first time, I saw a flicker of something akin to humility in her eyes. "It's complex, Lana," I replied, without judgment. "But it's the foundation of everything. You can't build a strong house on a crumbling foundation." Weeks turned into months. My team worked tirelessly, implementing new AI-driven security protocols, deploying advanced data analytics dashboards, and revamping their entire product development pipeline. The results were immediate and dramatic. Customer churn decreased, system errors plummeted, and their new product launches, now guided by our data-driven insights, were remarkably successful. Radcliffe Innovations, slowly but surely, began to recover. As the company stabilized, my role shifted from direct technical implementation to strategic oversight. I spent less time coding and more time in high-level meetings, guiding the future direction of Radcliffe Innovations' technology strategy. Lana, witnessing the undeniable success of my initiatives, became less confrontational and more receptive, even deferential. She began to genuinely seek my advice, not just on technical matters, but on broader business strategy. The transformation in our relationship was subtle but profound. One afternoon, Lana approached me in the Radcliffe Innovations cafeteria. It was a casual setting, away from the formality of the boardrooms. "Chloe," she began, her voice hesitant, "I wanted to thank you. You've truly saved this company. And I realize now how much I underestimated you. How much we all did." It wasn't the tearful, dramatic apology I might have once fantasized about, but it was genuine. It was an acknowledgement, finally, of the years of dismissal, the unacknowledged efforts, and the painful betrayal. I looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw not the antagonist of my past, but a woman who had been forced to confront her own limitations and the consequences of her past actions. "It's not just me, Lana," I said, a faint smile playing on my lips. "It's the entire Nexus Labs team. We built something extraordinary. And you, in a way, provided the perfect proving ground." We talked for a long time that day, perhaps the most honest conversation we had ever had. She confessed her own insecurities, the pressure she felt to live up to my father's expectations, and her genuine lack of understanding of the technical intricacies of the business. I, in turn, shared some of my own struggles, the loneliness of being undervalued, and the relentless drive to prove myself. A fragile bridge, built on shared experience and newfound understanding, began to form between us. The emotional arc had reached its zenith. The injustice had been confronted, the vulnerability overcome, the hope realized, and the public vindication delivered. But the story wasn't just about revenge. It was about something far more enduring: self-discovery, resilience, and the power of true capability to shine through, no matter how much it's tried to be suppressed. With Radcliffe Innovations firmly on the path to recovery and Nexus Labs continuing its exponential growth, my professional life entered a new phase. I was now a prominent figure in the tech industry, frequently invited to speak on panels about AI, data analytics, and corporate transformation. The story of my journey, from dismissed daughter to corporate savior, became a source of inspiration for many. My relationship with Lana continued to evolve. We maintained a professional and respectful working relationship and a cautious personal one. She had embraced her new role, focusing on strategic partnerships and client relations, leaving the technological heavy lifting to me and my Nexus Labs team. She even, on occasion, reached out for personal advice, a sign of her newfound trust. My father, however, remained largely out of the picture. He still held the title of chairman, but his involvement in the day-to-day operations was minimal. He never offered a direct apology, never acknowledged the hurt he had inflicted. But I no longer needed it. His silence, his withdrawal, was its own form of acknowledgement. The old dynamic of seeking his approval had faded, replaced by a quiet confidence in my own abilities and achievements. The desire for revenge had morphed into a deeper understanding and a sense of peaceful detachment. My focus shifted towards the future. Nexus Labs, under my leadership as CTO and Dr. Sharma's as CEO, was on the cusp of becoming a major player in the global tech landscape. We expanded into new markets, launched groundbreaking products, and fostered a company culture that prioritized innovation, collaboration, and valuing every voice. I made it a point to ensure that no one at Nexus Labs ever felt undervalued or dismissed, drawing on my own painful experiences to create a truly inclusive and empowering environment. But my journey wasn't just about professional success. It was also about giving back. I established the Chloe Radcliffe Foundation for Women in Tech, an initiative dedicated to mentoring and funding young women pursuing careers in STEM fields. I knew firsthand the challenges of navigating a male-dominated industry, the subtle biases, and the constant need to prove oneself. I wanted to create a pathway for other women to ensure they had the support and resources I sometimes lacked. I began to dedicate a significant portion of my time to this foundation, speaking at schools, hosting workshops, and providing scholarships. It was incredibly fulfilling work, seeing the spark of potential in young girls, encouraging them to pursue their passions, and telling them, "Don't let anyone tell you what you can't do. Your voice matters. Your ideas have power." One particular moment stands out. I was speaking at a high school career fair, sharing my story with a group of aspiring young engineers. A shy, bespectacled girl approached me afterward, her eyes shining with admiration. "Dr. Radcliffe," she began, her voice barely a whisper, "I want to be like you. I love coding, but my parents say it's too hard for girls." I knelt down, meeting her gaze. "It's not too hard for anyone who has passion and dedication," I told her, my voice gentle but firm. "And you, my dear, have both. Don't let anyone else define your potential. If you love coding, then code. Build. Create. The world needs your unique perspective." I handed her a card for my foundation. "We're here to help you every step of the way." Seeing her face light up, the hope rekindled in her eyes, was more rewarding than any corporate accolade. My personal life also found its equilibrium. Liam, my steadfast friend, continued to be a constant presence. We had built a friendship that transcended the ups and downs of our professional lives. He was the one person who had seen me at my lowest and celebrated my highest triumphs, always without judgment. Our bond was truly unique, a testament to unwavering loyalty and shared history. The narrative of "my sister kicked me out of my father's company, then she came crawling back, begging me for a job" was not just a story of revenge, but a testament to the human spirit's capacity for resilience, innovation, and ultimately, self-acceptance. It was a journey from being undervalued to becoming invaluable, from being dismissed to becoming the driving force of change. It was a reminder that true success isn't just about titles or wealth, but about impact, purpose, and the profound satisfaction of proving to yourself and the world that you are capable of achieving the extraordinary. As I look back, I realize that the most profound lesson learned wasn't about outsmarting my family or proving them wrong. It was about discovering my own strength, my own worth, independent of their validation. It was about transforming adversity into opportunity, about building something meaningful from the ashes of betrayal. And it was about understanding that true vindication isn't about their discomfort, but about your own unwavering belief in yourself. If you've ever felt like the underdog, if you've ever had to fight for your place, then know this: your story has power. Your potential is limitless. And sometimes, the greatest setbacks are simply the universe's way of redirecting you to your true path, a path where you are not just seen, but celebrated for exactly who you are. So, keep fighting, keep building, and never, ever stop believing in your own extraordinary capabilities.